The summer my classmate nearly got killed. I am a female, live in Greece, and this happened in July 2011. Now, I'm not using my actual account because a couple of my friends also use Reddit, and I'd rather not that they'd read it. Anyways, I was 16 years old, and me and the rest of my class rented and went to a villa for the weekend in a small village. We didn't do much. We basically just ate, drank, and watched horror movies. One boy from my class, we'll call him Tom, didn't really want to spend the evenings with us, and instead, we'd go on walks around the neighborhood. Tom was a loner with a drinking problem. Still, he was a nice guy. I was the only one he was close to. The others didn't talk to him that much. Saturday evening, I decided to go walking around with him. I was bored with constantly being with my class. It was 10:30 p.m. and pitch black outside, but since pretty much only elderly people lived in that village, I assumed we were safe. We walked and talked about random stuff for maybe an hour. Suddenly, we heard men shouting and laughing loudly, obviously very drunk. We still didn't see them. They were behind the corner. I got worried and asked Tom to go back to the villa. He said he wasn't scared. I had a strong feeling of dread at the moment, so I was like, fuck it, and started running back to the villa. I assumed Tom was also going to come, but he remained there. I continued running and didn't look back. After I had almost arrived at the villa, I blamed myself for being so scared over nothing. After all, having a few drinks on Saturday night is not a crime. Those guys probably weren't dangerous or anything. I got inside the villa, had a snack, and went to bed. I woke up 2 hours later due to my classmates shouting and freaking out in the hallway. I went to see what was happening, and almost all of them were standing around the sofa in the living room. I pushed them aside and saw Tom sitting on the couch. It was absolutely horrific. His entire face was covered with blood. He had lots of blood on his clothes too. He could barely speak, but he said he fell from some bridge. I assumed he was lying and was in fact attacked by those people, but I didn't say anything. Obviously, we called an ambulance, we called his parents, and he was taken to the hospital. The following day, we all went to visit him. His entire face was bruised, his right arm and both his legs were in casts. We begged him to tell us what had happened. He still claimed he fell from a bridge. His parents then asked us to leave, so we left. Some of my classmates speculated he might have jumped from the bridge on purpose since he drank so much and maybe suffered from depression. My classmates started going home, but I and my friend stayed because we needed to use the restroom. My friend got out of the restroom first and waited for me outside. When I got out, she told me she had heard some nurses talk to Tom, saying his injuries weren't caused by a fall. Someone had beaten him up. My heart sank. I still didn't mention those drunk guys. I was afraid my classmates and Tom's parents might blame me for leaving him alone. After several more days, some of my classmates and I went to visit Tom again. My classmates left after some time. I stayed. His parents weren't in the room, so I asked Tom to tell me what really happened and why he claimed he had fallen from a bridge. He said after I started running, he kept walking. As he was walking past those drunk, probably also drugged up guys, one of them started messing with him. Tom pretended he didn't notice him and kept walking. That guy started following him, and so did the others. Tom asked them if there was a problem, and they started laughing and swearing. At that point, he noticed one of the guys, 4 in total, was carrying a lead pipe. He tried to run away. One of the guys grabbed his arm and threw him to the ground, yelling at Tom that he'd kill him. Then, they started kicking him and hitting him with the pipe. He lost consciousness. He woke up at one point and started crawling back to our villa. He couldn't stand up. He said he later realized they had stolen his wallet and his watch. As he was telling me all of this, he just stared in one direction. As I listened, I actually started crying, but his expression remained serious. I begged him to tell his parents and the police. He refused. The doctors had obviously already called the police several days before, but he had refused to press any charges. I don't know why. He wouldn't tell me. After about a week, he got out of the hospital. He never showed up at school though. They said he switched schools. I never saw him again. I feel extremely guilty this happened to him. I feel I shouldn't have left him by himself. What bothers me even more is those psychopaths are still somewhere out there. Less than amused. My twin sister and I were about 15 years old when this happened. To remain anonymous, we'll call her Bella. Where we live, it gets extremely cold in the winter and extremely hot in the summertime. It was mid-July, and we were taking a day trip to a local amusement park. On a usual day, it would be extremely busy, and was a large property with different rides and a water park. When we arrived there, naturally, our parents allowed us to wander off, but not leave each other's sight. We had our phones and believed we were perfectly fine. I should mention that Bella is a few minutes younger than me, and she's slightly shorter. With the role of an older sister, I protect her and wouldn't let anything happen to her. After we ran to a few of the biggest rides, Bella recommended that we stop at a place to get a drink, so we did. We stopped at a cute little Italian ice place and got a soda to share. As we turned to walk away, I saw a man about mid-20s watching us. He smiled at us and walked over, proceeding to start a conversation with us. He would ask seemingly innocent questions like, "How are you liking the park?" and "What's your favorite ride?" Bella, being so naive, would answer him, not thinking he was creepy or anything. He gave off a vibe that was just weird. Usually, I'm not the one to judge about looks or clothing, but he seemed dirty with greasy long blonde hair and a baggy black shirt with cargo shorts. You know, the ones with numerous pockets? Then he asked Bella how old she was. She stupidly answered 15. "You look older. More developed," he told her, as his eyes violated my little sister. "Okay, leave us the fuck alone," I snapped, grabbing Bella's hand and jogged away. We continued our journey around the amusement park. Our mom called Bella to check up on us, and we explained things were going great. We wouldn't dare tell her that there was a creepy guy who fucked my sister. We'd have to have parental guides all the time then. This is where things got totally friggin' weird. Bella and I were in line for a ride that got you completely soaked. It seated 2 per row and there were 4 rows, so no doubt we'd be stuck with someone. But we were stuck with the greasy creep. He sat down behind me, and I didn't even realize he was there. There was a father with his daughter presumably behind him. As the ride started, he started trying to talk to me, and he was fucking creepy. "Why'd you yell at me, Alex?" he said lowly so I could hear, but Bella definitely heard. I was just complimenting how good Bella turned out. I fucking turned and smacked him. This alarmed the people running the ride and they stopped it, asking if things were okay. "You fucking attention-seeking whore! Why do you always do that?" I had no friggin' idea what this guy was talking about. Me nor Bella had never seen him in our lives. The last thing he said to me was the scariest thing, and to this day, it replays in my head. He grabbed my arm as the people escorted him out. "I'll be seeing you later, girls." So, to the greasy man who fucked my sister in an amusement park, let's not meet. The third kid that was watching. Sorry if this story is a tad confusing. I'm not the greatest writer. A little bit of backstory. At the time, I was a 15-year-old male, and I lived with my grandparents. Our house is located on a decent-sized property, and there are no streetlights along the road. That means when it gets dark out, it's dark out. The house is surrounded by a 2-meter-tall wall of bush, and there are 2 alley-like paths that connect the front yard to the backyard, one on the left of the house and one on the right. This happened a little while ago, July 1st to be exact. Yes, on Canada Day. My family and I had just finished having dinner with other family and friends. It was a great night and I had a lot of fun. After the gather-up and celebration of this country, my brother, who is 7 years old, and I decided to head home early with my grandparents. By this time, it's around 8:30 p.m., The sun is just about to set, but there was still about 15 to 20 minutes of daylight left. My brother decides to not let any sunlight to be wasted and suggests that we play soccer in the backyard. I accept his offer and we grab some equipment and begin playing. About 10 minutes goes by, and our main light sources now are the little lampposts that dimly lit the backyard. All of a sudden, I hear a child's laugh from behind me. I instinctively turn and stare at the tall bush wall that the sound came from. As much as I wanted to believe that it was my brother laughing, something at the back of my head is telling me that there's something off about the tone and pitch of the ear-piercing giggle. It almost sounded like a sinister laugh, not to mention the sound came from behind me while my brother was in front of me. After what seemed like an hour of confusion and denial that someone else is out there, my brother says, "Your laugh sounds like a 4-year-old's. At this comment, my face goes pale. I turn my attention back to my brother, and instantly, through my distressed expression, he also turns pale. I convince my brother and myself that it is just some neighborhood kids partying in the backyard. It is Canada Day after all, right? I decide to block out the situation and continue to play soccer, but after what seemed like seconds, we both heard it. "Can I play too?" I freeze up, all my muscles tensed up, and I couldn't find the courage to move. I look over to my brother and saw that he was now completely freaked out. I mustered up as much courage as I had left and told him to stay put as I go see if someone is at the side of the house. I slowly shuffle my way towards a side alley, and when I arrive, no one was there. I then decide to look through the bush wall to see if our neighbors were in the backyard. Again, no one was there. Still in disbelief, I tell my brother that it's just some neighbors. He agrees with me, probably because he didn't want to believe that there was someone or something watching us. I decide that it's already dark outside, and that I've already worked up a sweat, mainly because I'm scared as shit by now. I grab the ball, and we make our way back inside. "Oh, you two aren't playing anymore? Okay." With this, we both make a full-out sprint back to our house. Me and my brother talked about it once, and we had decided that it's just some neighborhood kid. At least, that is what we hope. Creepy kid, let's not meet. The Man in the Garage. Originally, I had posted this story on Reddit No Sleep, but I just found this subreddit tonight and realized it is a much more appropriate location for my story. This situation occurred in the summer 6 years ago, in my small town in northeastern Colorado. I remember every detail as if it were just yesterday. At the time, I had a best friend, Anna, who lived with her mother, Doreen, her grandmother, who was called Grammy, her aunt, Kara, and Kara's daughters, Haiti and Amelia. Haiti and Amelia were sent to Kansas to spend time with their grandmother, Sharon. Their father, Bill, was in jail due to domestic violence towards her mother. Haiti had recently been sent home for a bad attitude. On this particular night, Kara and Haiti went to stay with Anna's sister, Cadence, and I, and were spending the night with Anna. It was a warm night in July, and Anna and I had planned to go to the drive-in. Our drive-in was in the next town over, so a 10-minute drive. They would play 2 movies, starting at 9 and ending around midnight. I remember one of those movies was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Doreen took us to the drive-in, where we sat outside the car with a couple of our friends. When we got home, it was shortly after midnight and a storm rolled in. Doreen settled on the couch, downing her lightly boxed wine, and Anna and I went to play video games. We heard the thunder crack through the clouds, releasing a downpour of rain. After several minutes, Anna and I decided to go into the kitchen to grab a snack. As we walked into the kitchen, we noticed a little red light blinking on the answering machine. "I wonder who called," Anna said, walking over to the machine and pressing the play button. "Hi, Doreen. This is Sharon. I just wanted to let you know that we got a call from the police station saying that Bill escaped from the jail. Nobody's sure where he's headed, but I don't think you guys will have to worry about anything. I just figured it was best if Kara knew just in case. Amelia and I are fine, but if you could call me when you get this message, just so I know if Kara and Haiti are safe, I'd really appreciate it. Take care." Knowing about Bill's past abuse towards Kara and the girls, Anna and I were concerned. We tried to wake up Doreen to let her know, but she had too much wine and was out like a light. Just to be safe, Anna and I went around and locked all the doors and windows, and decided that we just call it a night, one that didn't involve much sleep. Early the next morning, Kara and Haiti returned home. Anna and I told Kara and Doreen about the message, and Kara called Sharon right away to let her know that we were safe. After breakfast, Doreen and Kara sat outside while Anna, Haiti, and I went into the game room. Anna got on the phone with one of her internet boyfriends, while Haiti played RuneScape, and I sat on the floor playing SNES. After about half an hour, Doreen came in the back door to put on her shoes and told us she was going to mow the lawn while it was still cool outside. I felt as though we had barely heard the screen door slam shut when Doreen was suddenly pounding on the window of the game room that faced a small backyard. "Call 911! Bill just came out of the garage and stabbed Kara!" she yelled to us. Haiti bolted from her chair and out the back door. I jumped up as well and looked at Anna, who was still on the phone. I jerked the phone from her hands and hung up before dialing 911 and handing the phone back. I walked into the living room and heard Anna explaining to the operator what had just happened. I looked towards the big picture window that faced the neighbor's house and saw Bill casually walking around to the front of the house. I ran to the front door and quickly locked the deadbolt. Anna came to the front window and peeked outside. "Yes, he walked out front, and he's leaning against the bed of my mom's truck, smoking a cigarette," Anna explained to the operator. Anna and I went to the back door to see what was happening with Kara. Doreen was kneeling on the ground next to Kara, who was slouched up against the house. A crimson smear of blood stretched down the white siding of the house behind Kara. Nausea overwhelmed me when I saw the blood, and I looked down at the ground, only to see a bloody pocket knife glistening at me. I yelped and jumped to the side. I grabbed Haiti, who was crying hysterically, and held on to her, trying to comfort her as best as I could. The few minutes seemed like hours before I finally heard the sirens and tires screeching as police and an ambulance pulled up to the house. It seemed as though I were watching an episode of Cops on television. The police sprang out of their cars, pointing their guns in the direction of where Bill was standing. "Put your hands in the air!" I heard the squeaky tires of the stretcher being pushed up the lawn into the backyard, and watched as they carefully loaded Kara onto it before taking her away to the ambulance. A policeman ushered the rest of us inside, putting us into separate rooms and handing us a statement form to fill out. After everything had settled down, the neighbor Frank had come to the back fence and was talking to Doreen. He explained that shortly before we returned from the drive-in, he heard Anna's dog barking frantically. He didn't realize until now that they must have been barking at Bill as he made his way into the garage. Bill stabbed Kara 3 times. One of the wounds went through the center of the dragon tattoo on her back, puncturing her lung and causing it to collapse. After a couple days in the hospital, she was fully recovered and was very lucky to be alive. According to what Bill told the police, he was able to sneak out of the jail in Kansas and hitchhiked his way into Colorado with a semi-driver and walked from the diesel station to Anna's house, where he hid in the garage, waiting for a chance to get to Kara. When the police questioned him about his motives to stab Kara, he simply stated, "If I can't have her, nobody can." He literally appeared out of the dark, twice. The summer before this, July of 2012, my 2 best friends and I were at the security for a fireworks tent in our town. We worked in shifts as the security, and it was a pretty sweet gig. We worked from 9 to 7 a.m., so we worked in shifts. One of us would sleep for a couple of hours, and the other 2 would keep watch. Well, we all one night decided not to sleep. So, at about 1:30, another friend of ours got off work and brought a television and his PlayStation 3. We were playing at about 4:40 when I looked outside the tent to see a man with crazed eyes looking at the four of us, walking towards the tent. Since we were security, we usually had a bat and a very sturdy walking cane at our sides, but alas, we had left them in my car, which the stranger now stood between us. The man asked us what we were doing, obviously not all there. He wasn't drunk, but his speech was slurred. We told him that we were security for the tent, and we instructed him to sit outside it, because we didn't know him. He sits on the pavement, and asked us if we want any of what is in his pocket. I am ready to throw my chair in case he pulls out a knife or, God forbid, a gun, when he pulls out an old auto rag. He says there's a frankincense on it, and asked us if we wanted any. We, of course, declined his rag. He then huffs it for a full 30 seconds, and then falls backwards, obviously getting high. He then says he is tired, and decides to start walking home. Now, we were located in one of those family centers with an arcade, go-karts, outside mini-golf, all that jazz. When the man walked away, he walked towards the mini-golf place, and my friends and I called the non-emergency line of the local police station to tell them about the men. About 5 minutes later, I grabbed the bat and cane and put them in the tent, and were huddled by the car while a friend smokes. I look near the front of the building we were at, about 50 feet away, and see a figure in the shadows of the side of the building. Our friend was back. We moved slowly back to our seats in the tent, not wanting him to get close to our area of comfort and near our weapons, and he took his place in front of the tent again, now talking about how this may be a dream, and that this all could just be him in his bed. We told the man that this is not a dream, and that the man needs to leave about 5 times, and I am now freaking out. I take my phone and walk around to the outside of the tent, to my car, and call the police again. They tell me someone is on the way, and the man, after several more goads to go home and sleep in his rag-filled stupor, starts to leave. And he stares at me as he leaves, which is terrifying. He gets about 400 feet away, and the cops stop him. Turns out the rag was ether, and there was a switchblade in his other pocket. You can say that we didn't sleep at all that night. Facebook weirdo poses as my friend for 4 months. The most unsettling shit happened to me recently. For a moment, it absolutely felt like I was living in a creepypasta. Then things began to make a bit more sense, you know? But I was still left with a ton of unanswered questions. Now some background information. I'm a 20-something woman, American, and a Francophile, fluent but not native in French. Since 2011, I've been in correspondence with an eccentric French guy I met because he posted a clip of super rare telefilm on YouTube. We had a bunch of mutual interests and eventually met in real life, so he would give me the movie on a flash drive. He also gifted me a book from his personal library that he thought I would like. We stayed in contact, and I recently returned the favor by buying him a DVD off Amazon. It's been good. Our conversations are enriching, and he's a sweet guy. Just odd, as am I. He sort of switches between identities online. His real name, Jean, and then an Italian surname, and a fictional character from Gothic literature. He's very into dark romanticism. I knew him on Facebook under the name of the character, and for a while that was his email address as well. Although last summer, he started using an address based off his real name, so it was kind of a mix of the two. He can be hard to keep tabs on because he often disappears from Facebook without warning, and then reappears as soon as he came. He's gone through 2 or 3 different accounts, all using the fictional character's name. It wasn't a surprise when he vanished sometime last fall, and I just kept my eyes peeled for him. Occasionally, I'd do a search, and one day, I found an account with his real name, although not one with a fictional character. There was no face pic, but all that was typical. This is his profile pic, right? Just him. Since he sometimes uses his real name online as well, I added the person, figuring if he wasn't the right person, he would just decline my request or send me a message asking how we knew each other. When he accepted my request without asking who I am, I figured it was actually him. This seemed to be confirmed when I first started messaging him. In late February, between then and now, we've exchanged over 900 messages. I started things where they had left off, saying how good it was to see him back. I had just been thinking of him, I was gonna email him something, but now I could do it over Facebook chat, etc. He greeted me warmly, and then when I sent him a YouTube video I thought he'd like, he proceeded to discuss it with me. He was a little less articulate than I remembered, but not so much so that it became noticeable except in hindsight. And he was odd, but that was normal. In April, he returned to Facebook under the fictional character's name. We added each other and started Facebook chatting again. I would chat with the two accounts indiscriminately. They were never online at the same time, so I would just talk to whichever one was on. Again, I noticed that something was off with Jean. He would say things that didn't make sense, and then refuse to explain when I said I was confused. He would use flirtatious terms of endearment, which made me uncomfortable. He made a lot of typos, and that made it hard to follow him too. It was only later that I noticed all the typos, all the cryptic statements and all that stuff. All the flirtation happened when I was talking to Jean, and not when I was talking to the account with the name of the fictional character. Likewise, all the most legit stuff happened with the fictional character account, like me getting his address to send him his DVD. He was just straight up nicer on that account too. I had some unpleasant arguments with the real name Jean, and only him. I didn't notice at the time though, because there otherwise seemed to be continuity between the two accounts. We discussed the same topics on both, and while the speech patterns were somewhat different, there were notable similarities. The same Italian expressions got used. For instance, real name Jean called me Bella Ragazza, a flirtatious gesture that made me uncomfortable, while making fun of a Roberto Alagna album cover, called him Bel Uomo. They both use the expression no problemo at various points. They both complain about the French far right. It seems seamless. Until it wasn't. On Saturday, I saw real name Jean online and started chatting with him, asking if he'd heard about all the stuff that happened that week in the US. When I brought up marriage equality, he became very homophobic, which surprised me because I had known him to be a decent guy. We argued about non-binary gender before, but straight up vicious homophobia, slurs, etc. came to me as a shock. I started to fight with him and he became very hostile, saying nonsensical and paranoid things like, if I come to your city, you'll hide with your friends so as not to show your face at the supermarket, and telling me to stop talking to him. None of this made any sense to me, given our 4-year history, his past affectionate behavior, etc., and I asked him, so we're not friends anymore? Trying to figure out what the hell was going on. He responded that friendship means nothing on the internet, which I found bizarre because we met in real life in summer 2011 and had been planning to meet again last year, except that he had been out of town. A while later, I saw that fictional character Jean had liked and commented on one of my photos. Another thing I realized in hindsight was that all the likes and comments were from the fictional character Jean, not real name Jean. I went to Facebook chat, only real name Jean was on. I asked him why he was liking my stuff when he told me to stop talking to him. Furious, he responded that he hadn't liked anything. Where do you see my name? I said, well, not your real name, your fictional character's name. He said, so? And told me to fuck off. At this point, I was reeling in confusion. What the hell was happening? Was he having a dissociative episode? I resolved to talking to real Jean when he came online to see how he acted towards me, and if he was civil, to confront him with his behavior under his other account. He came on early in the morning, and I rushed to talk to him, both deeply unsettled and dying of curiosity. "Hi, can I talk to you? It's kind of urgent." "Urgent? Sure, what's up?" "So, when I'm talking to your real name account, you're the one I'm talking to, right? This is you?" And I sent him the link to the Facebook page. You see where this is going, right? Of course you do. Not at all. In fact, I don't have a Facebook account under my real name. This person is not me. He confirmed that he had only been back on Facebook since April, the time when the fictional character account reappeared. He was pretty distressed to learn I'd been talking to this guy for 4 months, thinking it was him, and even more distressed to know that the guy was a dick, and I thought even for a moment that he was also a dick. You're probably wondering how it took me so long to figure it out, and all I can say is that I took for granted that the real name Jean and the fictional character Jean were the same person. It never occurred to me that they might not be. Them being the same person was a null hypothesis, and the idea that they might not be, that real name Jean might be pretending, was so incredibly crackers that it never crossed my mind. Not once. So you're probably still wondering how I could have simply taken granted that real Jean was my friend when he gave me so many hints that he wasn't, and I have to remind you the degree to which he simply went along with everything I said. I would talk about stuff specific to my friend, stuff that must not have made any sense to the man I will now call fake Jean, and he would act like he knew what I was talking about. The idea that he was lying, faking, or delusional was unthinkably bizarre. Read this conversation from the day after I added him on Facebook to see if you can tell me if I was gullible to just take for granted that this was the guy I knew. I said, "By the way, I was talking to my SO a while ago about Leon, and I said it would be a real shame we couldn't do the tour last summer. You have the erudition of a professor, but the passion of someone who really lives it, like the Addams family or something." And he said, "Thank you. Passion. Always passion." And I said, "Can you explain that visit you made with your niece to the cemetery, where you haunted the graves, masked and wearing a cape, if I remember correctly?" And he said, "That was a really long time ago." And I said, "Yeah, around 2011, I think, or something like that." And he said, "It was another time, which no longer belongs to the current one." And I said, "Oh, okay. How do you mean?" To tell you the truth, I don't have the slightest idea who you are or what goes on in your life, so I don't know what you mean by that. And he says, "Still, you have a large portion of it on the 2 Facebook sites, clips, photos, articles, 3 MySpace sites, and a YouTube channel, remember?" And I said, "Yes, but exactly, there's nothing that would tell me that the photos in Loyaz belong to another era. There are only clips, photos, etc. I have no context. If you don't want to elaborate on the context, that's okay." And he said, "Regarding the cemetery, I'm kidding, but lately, I took 2 night photos in the cemetery of Tournai, which are on my sites. The photos are of this time. It was a joke." And I said, "Okay, I understand. Maybe I'm confused that visit with the one you made with your niece?" And he said, "Maybe." And I said, "I saw those photos a long time ago." And he said, "Which ones?" And I said, I don't know anymore. It was on your other Facebook." And he said, "But there are a lot to download." And I said, "I'm not sure." And he said, "Not Loyaz." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know. A cemetery or maybe catacombs?" And he said, "Catacombs equals archaeology in the Alps, mountains, cut stones, running water, etc. A lot of photos and video footage. Every July 1st, the ancient summer solstice, Eros, Thanatos, caves, etc. Passion, always passion." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "So you know me a little, grasped the person a little. Literature, cinema, archaeology, music, photography equals passion." Yes, he's not contributing any real information. He's just waffling and repeating things back to me, but he is nonetheless acting as though he knows what I'm referring to. It is with great confidence that he says those photos, they were from a long time ago. When I figured it out, I simply told him, "I just figured something out. I thought you were someone else. Sorry to have disturbed you." He responded by unfriending me, but I still wanted to see what he had to say for himself, so I said, "Well?" His reply, "Nothing." You're one of those rare idiots who manages to continue to deceive themselves. Fuck off. Edit. Someone in the comments were wondering what his intentions were, so I wanted to add that they were almost certainly not innocent. Fake John twice mentioned his desire to meet me and buy me a drink, which, flirtatious aside, I didn't find odd, since my actual friend would want us to meet up as well, and once asked me when I planned to return to France. Dude wanted to meet in real life. How do you feel about insects? Subway to Penn Station, 4:10 p.m., July 10th, 2014. I'm wearing a floral dress with a denim button-up long-sleeve shirt over it, with a messy bun, makeup, and glasses on. He's wearing light blue slacks and a short-sleeve shirt, with a safari hat and wire circular glasses. This is a pretty accurate transcript of the conversation. I started jotting it down on my phone as soon as I got out of the train. What time is it? 4:11. How are those spirits? Unsure if he was foreign and asking how drinks are downtown. What? In the city? I smell something, like alcohol. What? Oh no, I didn't drink anything. You're a cutesy. Thank you. Are you a cuddly stuffed bear? What? Yeah, totally. Do you live in Washington Heights? Yeah, sorta. Well, I don't anymore, really. Oh. Did you find yourself someone to cuddle who lives somewhere else? No, I live there myself. I'm moving out of my apartment. I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. I'm sorry that being social is an uncomfortable thing. It's fine, I'm just a bit high. Oh, you're cuckoo. Like a bit crazy? What? No, like I smoked weed? Ah, you had weed. That's why you're so attractive, because you're under the influence. Well, I don't know what that has to do with anything. You're just so cutesy. Do you mind if I come sit next to you? Okay. You're very attractive. Thank you. I feel like I should inform you that I'm not single. Oh, you have a boyfriend. No, I have a girlfriend. So you're a lesbo. Do you ever swing the other way? It doesn't matter. So you swing both ways then, huh? It depends on the person. Either way, I'm in a committed relationship. Until infidelity. Nope, we'll not be doing that. But you like both genders. So are you a lesbo or what? I wouldn't say that I can categorize myself. It must be hard to not live with a heterosexual lifestyle. I haven't found that there isn't much of a difference. So you're a tomboy lesbo. I wouldn't say that. So you're the girly lesbo. I wouldn't say that. I don't think there's a need to define. Oh, okay, well, it was nice to meet you. Puts out hand to shake but doesn't move. So, are you into horses and dogs? I like dogs. Yeah. No, I mean sexually. Since you're into both sexes, why not animals too? What? I'm sure there's a lot of people into it who won't admit it because of the stigma. Okay. I'm sorry for bothering you. How do you feel about insects? I don't particularly like them. And we sat in silence for 2 stops until I got off. It felt like it took forever.